class by my side. Thank you for filling in again, Jim. We're happy to have you.
Glad to be here. It's a pleasure. And I'm excited about this week's show because this is kind of the way I started fishing.
Yeah.
And, no boat, get out there, wade around, knee deep, waist deep, chest deep, whatever it happened to be. I'm looking forward to see what's going on in this
no matter what.
Yeah.
All right, well, before we get our feet wet, let's say hi to Dave Farrell at the CCA workbench, who's also a wader.
Oh, yes. My feet have been wet all the time. Yeah, a lot.
And you use your Converse shoes.
I do.
Dave wears Converse for literally every occasion.
Well, weddings, waiting.
Oh, we're so synced up, Dave.
Yeah.
All right, let's start out in the Star-Tron Central West region with Captain Jeff Page, who has the best approach along with the best wade fishing spots. Let's hear it, Page.
Yes, we do, and in the Star-Tron Central West region, we have a lot of good wading areas and a lot of different ways to approach them. But the ones I want to first talk about are places that you can get to, like you said, Jimmy, that you don't have a boat and you only have a car or a bicycle or whatever. And there's a lot of areas like that. And starting down south, all along the beaches from, say, Boca Grande all the way up to Englewood, there's little accesses that you can park at and go walk or wade in the Gulf along the beach where there's structure. And you can catch snook. You can even catch tarpon, especially this time of year. Now, when we get into the cooler months, you can wade along the beaches for sheephead, pompano, black drum, flounder. The other cool thing is usually on the other side of the road that runs parallel with the Gulf of Mexico in my entire region, from Boca Grande to St. Pete. The road's name may be different, but it just runs along the Gulf. Usually on the other side of the road from the beach is a bay access wade area. And you'll have to do a little bit of homework to find them, just like I was telling you when we had the paddle boards and the kayak show. They make little booklets that you can look in Sarasota, Manatee, and Pinellas County and Charlotte County where there is accessible areas. Now, once you've found these areas, it's good to have a pair of zip-up Velcro boots, which are a step up from the Converse high-top All-Stars. And those are always nice because you can walk on oysters as well as rocks, and they've got pretty good grip on the bottom. And then I like to wear a little chest pack where I can put my extra tackle, leader, hooks, etc. And then I like to have one rod and reel in my hand, and as you get better at this, Rod Runner makes a little single rod holder you can sling over your shoulder to carry an extra rod. Now, the other way we like to wade, and I do this a lot with my bigger bay boat, is I like to get out of the bay boat to get into areas where I could maybe only get into with a technical poling skiff or a kayak. So I bail out of the bay boat, and I put on the same gear that I was talking about, and I can wade into little pockets and little back bays and oyster bars that there's just no way to get to with your boat. And the cool thing about getting out of the boat and then getting back in, you can move and go to another spot real quick. That being said, some of the lures that are really good for wading, if you don't want to take live bait, which you can take a bait bucket with you. But some of the lures that work real well is a soft plastic like a Gulp shrimp, white or new penny on a jig head, or a Berkeley paddle tail in a root beer color, or even a Johnson weedless gold spoon. And then, of course, I like throwing that J. Walker 120 topwater plug made by Berkeley. Now, that pretty much covers all the water column. And I've got a couple really cool wade pictures. And both these pictures, these are all good friends of each other, and they all wade every weekend. They're just working guys. The first picture is two brothers, the Glunk brothers. The bearded one is Jake, and the clean-shaven is Austin. And that's with a couple of nice redfish. And then the next picture is their good friend Frankie Lippert with a nice snook. And like I said, they wade every weekend. Staying inshore, the tarpon fishing, Jimmy, remains probably number one on the popularity contest, as number one in the bite. Timing is everything, and it's been really good early in the morning and then later in the afternoon, especially on the outgoing tide. But early in the morning, you're going to want to have free-line crabs with light a leader as possible. I've been using 50 and 60 maximum, and I've been getting a lot more bites with the lighter leader. I like to use a 7 or an 8-0 Trocor circle hook. And then on the afternoon outgoing tides, the Boca Grande Pass as well as the Egmont Pass have been really good. And then you might want to put a cork on your crab. My tarpon picture tonight is a good friend, Eric Hernandez, that actually won the weekly Sarasota City Tarpon Tournament. And he had to get out of the boat and wade to land that tarpon, as you see in the picture.
Perfect. I love it.
What you got going on for us offshore?
Offshore, red snapper. You know, we're into the second week of red snapper being opening for the commercial guys and the charter guys. I think it starts next week for the recreational, but it's been really good, and it's been out 110 feet on out. Captain Jason Stock, Captain Tim No, both report no problem getting their limits. They've been doing it on pinfish, Spanish sardines, and even frozen sardines, using chicken rigs as well as standard bottom rigs. Water's been real clear out there as well, so lighten up on your leader. 30, 40-pound leader with a 2 or a 3-0 circle hook will get the job done. And my photo tonight is a real recent picture of happy clients with Captain Tim No of Gulf Offshore Ventures. And my last species tonight, the permit. They like this warmer water just like the tarpon. As the water gets warmer, the permit fishing gets better. And I don't know about you, Jimmy, but we've had some really flat, calm mornings to where those fish are floating on top on the artificial reefs. Anywhere from 3 miles out to 11, the entire region has them. And the cool thing is, you can go the night before and dip crabs. You can get the bigger ones for your tarpon fishing and keep the smaller ones for your permit fishing. And then put your trolling motor on anchor lock, and you can adjust where you move in little increments around the reef and put out a free line behind the boat. And then if it's a little choppy or maybe you're not thinking your crab's getting down, put a small split shot on. And my last photo tonight is 2 happy clients with Captain Will Osborne of Cortez, Florida.
Very nice, man. Awesome report. Way to lead us off tonight, Paige. I'll take your daiquiri deck hot spots from here for the Central West region. Captain Jeff says tarpon in the early morning with freeline crabs off the beach from Venice Jetty south to Stump Pass. And then offshore, those red snappers are holding on structure and ledges in 110 feet of water. Live pinfish or sardines are going to be your best bait out there.
Well, Jim, this transition is the easiest when you're sitting right next to me. So, legend has it, surf's up in the Central East region. So why don't you give us a little sneak peek into what you've got this weekend for us?
It is up. And you know, the nice thing about getting out of the boat is that, you know, you get away from that hull slap. You get away from that noise like Paige was talking about.
Right.
And so wade fishing is something that be done from anybody in any body of water, but I really want to concentrate on the beaches. And let's get to the basics of what you need to do. Because in the Central East region, my Real Legends region, we have lots of places that you can wade fish in the surf. And like Dave does, you know, get out there and catch a lot of fish. So the summer months are typically the best for snook. And then you start to get some of those pompano, you start to get some of those whiting, and you start to get some of those bluefish in the cooler months of the year. But right now, snook is probably your #1 fish in the surf. So as a young man, I used to fish around the South Jetty at Canaveral. I used to wade out there and cast alongside of it and catch a lot of snook there. And so one of the things that I learned was where they would lay along the rocks and how far off the rocks they would lay. Now, I would catch snook, bluefish, jacks, redfish, and the occasional flounder doing this. But as an adult, I don't wade fish very much anymore. So what I learned 30 years ago, though, has still transitioned into what I do now when I'm out wade fishing on the water. And so I've got a picture here that lets you know that this is the south side of the South Jetty at Canaveral. And I know you can't see the jetty in the background, but it's just barely out of the picture. I now take my customers to places that I learned 30 years ago because they're still effective today and we still use exactly the same techniques. Now, my other species inshore is redfish. The redfish bite's been really good in the south end of Mosquito Lagoon right now. The grassy areas are starting to come back, especially around Pelican Island, Gallinipper Point, Turtle Pen, and Cucumber Island. These are really good places to go look for redfish right now. Now, in some cases, the water has been clear and the fish have been a little spooky, so cut baits like mullet or pinfish are doing really good, or if you have some ladyfish, they work as well. But you know, once they get into the mood where they're aggressive and they want to chase, First light and last light, topwater plugs are working really good right now. And then in the middle of the day, a saltwater assassin vapor shad, either in Houdini, Arkansas Shiner, or alewife colors are working really good. Most of those redfish are running 21 to about 26 inches, and I've got a picture of one here that one of my customers caught recently. And it was interesting that fish has actually been bitten by a shark, but he's still going strong. He chased down a vapor shad. Offshore.
I like his shirt too.
Offshore, the bites, overall, the bite's been a little bit slow. The water conditions have been a little bit dirty, and it's making it a little difficult to find king mackerel, but they're one of the more consistent species, even though that water is a little dirty and we've got a lot of weeds. The 70 to 90 foot reefs have not been really doing it though. Guys are getting out in 100, 110, 135 feet of water and catching them out there, as opposed to a little bit closer to the beach because of that dirty water. Or a little bit closer to shore. And then the biggest kingfish right now seem to be hitting live pogies, ribbonfish, or blue runners. And if you look at places like the Sebastian Inlet Tide Line, you look at the Canaveral jetties, and actually inside the port out through the buoy line and shipping channel has been pretty good for some king mackerel here in the last couple of days. Now, most of those fish are about 15 pounds, but some of them are hitting that 25-pound mark. And then my last species, is tarpon. And even though the tarpon action in the lagoon has been really good this season, the tarpon have slowed down just a little bit. So it's one of those things where you got to go search them. You got to go look around, find where the bait has moved to each day. We've got a lot of fresh water that's moved into the lagoon system, and it's pushed that bait around. Wherever you find the bait, you're obviously going to find the fish. And then along the beaches, wade fishing, we can do this time of the year for tarpon, and I see a lot of guys doing this. Throw big mullet, threadfin herring or pilchards, put them on a 6/0 to 8/0 size circle hook, and those fish are all running about 100, to 150. Well, some of them 150 pounds. Just remember, stay ahead of the schools whenever you get a chance, and you can jump multiple fish per day. Obviously, if you're in a boat, it's a little easier than it is when you wade fish. But I do have a picture here of one that we recently released.
Let's see it.
That's
nice.
your typical lagoon tarpon right now, running in that 40 to 50 pound class.
I'd take it.
Yeah, all day, every day.
All day, every day. All right, thank you, Jim. Well, here are the Rodan Marine System hotspots for your Real Legend Central East region.
Well, here's what a guy named Jim Ross says.
Who's that?
He says that, first of all, lock your Rodan in place and get those big snook and trout in your docks, mangroves, and spoil islands from Micco to Vero Beach. You want a freeline mullet, pilchards, or croakers near those structures for those species. And then offshore, the gag group are doing really good right now on the 180 to 240 foot reefs. Use croakers, grunts, or pogies on a standard bottom rig. You could also use deep jigs tipped with a ballyhoo. It's a really good option for those fish as well when you're out in that deeper water, as long as you don't have a lot of current.
Good job. Love having you here, man. All right, the Discover Crystal River Northwest region is coming up next with some wade fishing tips. But first, Dave's at the CCA workbench for Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques with some tips of his own, like how to lace up those Converse.
Yeah, you got to keep those things laced up because I've left quite a few of those things laying in the bottom of the ocean everywhere.
Oh no,
Yeah.
not you.
That's one of the tips, actually. So.
Sorry, I took one.
Yeah.
We'll
Check
be
your
back.
laces. Check your laces, always.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport. Legendary performance. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Your time on the water is precious. You return season after season to make unforgettable memories, fight a few fish, reconnect with friends, and recenter yourself. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters stay with Yamaha for the long.
Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques. And Dave, you have got so much stuff
Yeah,
here. I didn't realize we needed all this to go wade fishing.
And you don't. And that's one of the things, it's kind of a little bit of a hypocrisy here because most of the time when you go wading, you want to take as little stuff as possible.
Yeah, I'm thinking a couple of sand fleas in my pocket here, maybe a pack of hooks in my shirt.
I just got a lot of different stuff up here, a lot of different things. But
where are we going to start?
Anyway, the whole thing about wade fishing is it's a very peaceful, relaxing way to go fishing. A lot of solitude type things. But as far as the solitude goes, bring a friend. especially if you're going to some wild places. Like a lot of places that I started wading were wild places where I couldn't get with a boat, places that are, a long way away from other places, and no cell phone kind of things. Yeah. And so I always made sure I brought somebody with me, and you should too. If you're going to be wading, a lot of things can happen. Predators in the water, probably the least of our worries, but you can also get stung by a stingray. You could have a medical emergency. You could get stuck in a hole. You could get stuck in the mud. There's a lot of things that can happen to you. So always bring
So
a
just
fellow
like
with
when
you.
diving, bring a buddy.
Exactly. Always have a buddy with you. And try to wade in places that have good bottom. Not only will you catch more fish, but you're going to be more comfortable. You don't want bottoms that's going to be so soft that you're fighting it all day.
Yeah.
Your legs are going to get tired. You're going to get tired, and you're going to quit.
And there's nothing worse than being about thigh deep and getting one of those high butt cheek cramps, where you're, because you've been in the mud all day, and you're like, okay, I've got a quarter mile to go and I can't get there.
Right, exactly. and the soft sand, you're looking for a hard bottom.
Yeah.
A nice, with some vegetation in it, preferably some grass, and shuffle your feet a little bit if there's stingrays around.
Always.
Hopefully you can see them. In a lot of places where we wade, you cannot. So shuffle your feet when you're wading, because that's probably the worst thing that can happen to you as far as a predator is going to happen to you. The sharks aren't going to be a problem usually. It's that little stingray that'll get you, and that's something that you don't want to happen.
Kind of feels like a branding iron for about 2 hours.
Exactly.
It's
you want to
not
make
fun.
sure you want to bring some good wade shoes. I use Converses a lot in the summertime when I'm wet wading, because you don't need to wear waders.
Right.
And
right. So good pair of high top tennies.
And keep them tight, laced up tight, because you don't want to leave them in the mud. And these are better.
Yeah.
These are Bart's Bay Armor. These are from Texas. These actually give you a little protection from stingrays and whatnot. And the side zip is really good to take them on and off. I mean, it's so much easier.
They feel like they're double welt construction.
Yeah, the side zippers are really great for all that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our tackle storage. You want something that's not very big. When I used to do it a lot, we had fanny packs. Okay. And they would always... Well, this is kind of a different one. This is like a shoulder one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But the fanny packs would get wet.
Right.
If you get too deep, they'd get wet, and all your stuff, you'd have to rinse everything out. The backpacks work really great. You can put, one or two little boxes in here, and it's on your back and it's up high, so it's not going to get wet.
Well, like a regular backpack, it's got some nice padding to it. It's not going to really ride up on you.
Yeah, and then plus it's got little rod holders and stuff on it. The Aftco in there.
Now,
and
what's the tube for, Dave?
Well, you can put a camel pack in here. It's water.
Hydration.
Yeah, you can put water or vodka or whatever you want when you're wading. But it's really, really nice to have it on your back versus on your front, or even on your. We would wear them on our backs to give us room in the front, but still it would get wet. And always make sure you're using a box. If you're putting little boxes in these things, use the ones with the O-ring seal that are going to keep it, because you might trip. You might, bend over and get down in the water and try to release a fish or something. You don't want your tackle box flooded with brackish water.
I'm in a boat, and honestly, I only buy these anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
If they don't have a seal around them, I don't even buy them.
Exactly, because these are the best, and they the planos, and they will keep things locked up and dry, which is very important. Next, waterproof. I already talked about the tackle boxes.
Got tools. We got a live bait container.
We want to have good stainless steel tools.
Okay.
Something that can control the fish. When you're out there wading around, you're not on the boat. You can't, really control the fish, because he's swimming all around you. You want to grab him, something that'll get a hold of the fish and can control him.
A good lipping device.
Exactly. I like Boger grips. To me, they're the best. But this one's metal. And if you don't take good care of it and rinse it and everything, it'll mess up on you eventually.
It will corrode. Yeah.
So all the little plastic lip ones, they're really nice too.
Like a fish gripper.
Yeah, the fish gripper. Yeah. They'll work and will last a lot longer in the salt water. And I always like to have a good pair of pliers, and especially a pair of needle nose pliers when I'm wading, because then again when he's got it swallowed something down real deep inside of him, you can't get it out. A pair of needle nose pliers is key.
This is a good example of a working plier, where this is a good example of a plier to get, like
just to reach in and get stuff
or something
out.
That effect.
Yeah.
This is a good example of a working plier, because you've got a clip on here, which you can clip to your belt You've got obviously your bungee, and the sheath has a Velcro enclosure to keep it from falling out and losing it.
Right.
Great pair of pliers.
Also, you want to make sure that you're using a good long rod, 7-foot rod like this. This is a pin fathom 2, I think, or
that one is the
battalion 2. I'm sorry, the battalion. And this is a 7-foot rod. You want something that's long that'll give you a long cast. 15-pound braid will cast a mile.
Yeah.
So you can use that with a 20-pound leader, and you'll catch just about everything that swims, wading or otherwise.
And
also, I always make sure when I'm wading, I bring a gallon of fresh water with me that I keep in the truck to wash everything off before I climb into my truck. If I wash my boots off, I wash everything down because everything's covered in mud usually when I'm getting out. So I like to keep that 1 gallon to empty it out.
That's a great tip.
Okay,
Great
so
tip.
boots, rod, backpack, no fanny pack,
Gallon of water.
Stainless steel
water.
everything. Stainless steel everything.
Stainless
all
steel
the tools.
everything. All right, the Discover Crystal River Northwest region is a perfect place to be one with the water. So let's hear what we're catching with Captain Jeff Hageman.
The region can be very stealthy, like Dave was just talking about. In my region, definite must. Good pair of waders, wading boots, or an old pair of sneakers is a must to keep your feet protected. We got a lot of rocks, a lot of sharp oysters up here. The farther you go north, the more rocks we have. We also have some great beach fishing in the southern part of my region, especially in the summer months for snook, pompano, whiting. For snook, you want to kind of fish parallel to the beach in that first swash channel. That's where you're going to find most of your snook. The pompano and the whiting will be out a little bit deeper, kind of on that second break, or a fish that passes in the middle. As part of my region, to the north gets a lot less beaches, but can really be some really great wading. You're going to need a boat or a kayak to get to your spots to wade in the wintertime. But get in your boat, get out to a spot. As those negative tides in the wintertime can be really extremely good. You can also see the bottom contour and where the deeper water is, and that'll really concentrate the fish on those negative lows. Great way to fish our region. Get out there and find those holes, and those fish will be sitting in them when the tide drops out. Moving on inshore, Captain Mario Costello of Tall Tail Charters out of Ozella Keys Marina reports a good redfish bite right now. He's fishing the Mangrove Islands and Keys from Crystal River to Homosassa. He's working the Mangrove Islands that have sandy potholes adjacent to them. On the beginning of the incoming tide's been best for him. He's using both live pinfish and cut mullet on an 1/8-ounce jig head. Redfish have been a little leader shy right now, so he's dropped down to 15-pound test leader because the water has been crystal clear. The redfish have been ranging anywhere from 20 to 27 inches with a few oversized mixed in. And moving up the coast, Captain Lee Thompson out of Port St. Joe reports a hot bite in St. Joe Bay right now this week. Redfish have been on fire with several bull reds being caught. Top of the tide has been absolutely the best. And right now he's fishing the shallow flats, producing a lot of good redfish. Adjusting his leaders underneath his popping cork. And you want to get that soft plastic under that popping cork in that mid-water column so it's above the grass, and fishing it that way. And he said fluorocarbon leader up there is absolutely a must because the water is crystal clear up there too. And I've got a couple redfish photos.
Ooh.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's a nice
Chance
one.
with a 33-incher caught with Captain Mario.
Nice.
And another one from Captain Lee with a beautiful St. Joe redfish.
Pretty.
What else have you got for us, Hag?
Moving offshore, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports a good snapper bite right now. The for-hire red snapper bite opened June 1st. Plenty of these fish can be caught in 150 to 180 feet of water. Finding them on live bottom, look for the bigger fish a little higher in the water column. So when you're dropping down and you're looking at your bottom machine and you see the top of the fish at 110 feet, those are usually going to be the bigger ones are going to be on top. The smaller ones will be on the bottom, so kind of adjust your depth when you're dropping down. 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader, 6 to 8 ounce circle hook, and 6 to 8 ounces of lead. And squid right now is working best. Recreational snapper season opens up in our region June 16th, and I got a photo here of a nice West Coast ARS.
Fantastic
Right
picture.
there. Same with Captain Rob out of St. Pete. Blackfin tuna right now have been showing up at 140 feet plus pretty regularly. Vertical jigs over the wrecks and bait schools. Anytime you're bottom fishing, keep an eye on your machine. As those fish start to pop up in the water column, drop those vertical jigs down. And I've got a photo here of a nice blackfin tuna caught aboard the Big Nasty.
Ah, look at those ladies.
Captain Rob's putting the
Like
ladies on the
it.
fish,
They
I'm
are.
telling you.
I like it.
Well, thanks, Jeff. I'm going to take your Zello Keys Marina hotspots for the Northwest region from here. Captain Jeff says you need to get out there and look for snook around the beaches and passes, and pinfish or sardines on the outgoing tide seems to be working best right now. And then offshore, the mangrove snapper on the high relief structures in 30 to 70 feet of water. You want to use cut sardines on a knocker rig.
All right, anglers, CCA Star has begun, which means you can catch all kinds of fish, wade and surf fishing, and every single one of them can be entered in the Star competition. That's right, any fish you catch can be entered in the Power Pole Conservation Division to win prizes. Registration is open throughout the end of the tournament, so get registered now and start entering any fish you catch this summer in the Star competition for your shot at a share of $500,000 in prizes and scholarships. Go to the Star website, ccaflstar.com, for more information. You do not want to be that angler that catches that fish and you are not registered or a member.
That would be horrible.
It happens way too often, and it's horrible. All right, the Fish Bites East and Yanmar ASV regions are great, but completely different places to get your wade fishing fix. So stick around, and we'll be right back with your captains on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, together we do more, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA, and Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
Welcome back, everyone. Jim, we all know and love Sirius XM Marine. I know you've had it on your boats in the past, so let's take a look at what offerings they have in store for us.
If you're anything like me, you're often out on the water exposed with little protection from the weather. In areas where I fish frequently, like the Everglades or offshore, I don't even get cell service. On my skiff or my bay boat, I don't have an onboard radar. But even if I did, it can't paint a full picture of what lies ahead. With SiriusXM Marine satellite-based weather, I can see up-to-date weather information I need directly on my chart plotter. I can also see satellite weather radar, plus lightning strikes, detailed buoy data, marine zone reports, wind and wave information, long-range forecast, and much more, including fishing data. Whether it's making a go or no-go decision at the dock or navigating around storm cells so that I can continue fishing or run home, I always rely on my SiriusXM Marine weather service.
You know, Brie, it's really important when you're in a small skiff, or a bay boat, that you are aware of what's coming or what can potentially come. Because, like, we were out on the water just in the last couple of days, and we had pop-up storms come all around us. And if you don't know which way they're going, you may run into the path of it, and that is not good.
Yeah, and it can happen so fast.
Very fast.
I mean, SiriusXM Marine could save your life.
It
You
could.
never know.
It could. It's worth it.
Absolutely.
It's a great product.
Absolutely. All right, let's get Captain Mike Holliday on the line and head into the Fish Bites East region, specifically to the Indian River, where the shallow flats make it a great wading place. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Brie. Hey, Jim. How you doing, man?
Good, buddy.
Well, you know, the average depth of the Indian River is less than 3 feet, so that makes it a great place for wade fishing. There's access points along Indian River Drive and places like Walton Road, Savannah Road, the Old Fort, and Torpy Road. Or you can go out on the island to A1A and get access at Herman's Bay, Middle Cove, and Bear Point. And in all those areas, you'll find great snook, sea trout, and redfish along the docks and along the mangrove shorelines. What you want to look for are areas with seagrass or drop-offs or potholes, and start your day throwing saltwater sass and shads or 4-inch sea shads in the drunk monkey or Houdini colors, or you can work a topwater plug along the edges of the mullet schools. And then around the docks, you want to throw at those areas that have shade, like the lower laying areas that put out a lot of shade, or the docks that are broken down and dilapidated that don't get a lot of people out on them. So that's how you'll find the best success wading in my area. I got a great wading photo. That's 84-year-old Paul Morisseau. And he got that nice snook wading at dock line in Indian River. That fish had a topwater plug. He was fishing with Jason Arman of That's Arman Land-Based Fishing Charters. He specializes in wade fishing charters. So we have that going for us in our area. The other bite we got going, the beaches have been pretty dirty. They've had a lot of dirty water, and that's made it difficult for sight fishing tarpon. But there's still a lot of fish around the inlets and also up in the rivers in places like the Boy Scout camp in the Loxahatchee River, the C-23 and C-24 spillways in the St. Lucie River, and also in Big Mud Creek in the Indian River. The westerly winds we have this week will clean up the beaches, so we'll see migrating schools pushing north, and you can get in front of those schools and pitch a live pilchard, a threadfin, or a crab, or you can throw like a saltwater assassin little tapper on an eighth ounce jig head, not an 8 ounce, real light jig head, or you can throw a black and purple fly, something really small that when it hits the water doesn't make much of a splash. And then around the inlets, you'll do best drifting a live mullet or a thread fin on 60-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 7/0 circle hook. You want to float those baits during the outgoing tides. And for the fish up in the rivers, a live or dead mullet's going to be the top baits. Average tarpon region is like 40 to 80 pounds, but we get them up to about 120, 130. I have a great tarpon photo that Captain Chris Britton of Grey Ghost Charter sent me. That's a shot of a fish they hooked in the Crossroad area just inside the St. Lucie Inlet, and that fish ate a live mullet.
Look at the dark back on that thing. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah, beautiful fish.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Well, tell us what's going on offshore, Mike.
Well, the lack of current offshore has really hampered the bite for both trollers and bottom fishermen. It's been going on for about a week or so now. But we started to see a good push of deep blue water the last day or two, and that's got the mutton and mangrove snapper chewing along the reefs in 80 to 100 feet of water off Jupiter, and then on the 6 Mile Reef up towards Stewart and around the Halsey up in St. Lucie County. You want to anchor up and chum with pilchard or sardines or chunks of those baits or ground chum. Drip back small chunks of sardines for the mangroves that come up in the slick to feed. For the larger snapper, you can drop down anything from a sardine or a cigar minnow to a grunt plug. Average mangrove in my region is going to be like 1 to 3 pounds. Average mutton snapper is going to be, 8 to 12 pounds, let's say. I got a photo of a nice mutton snapper that came off the 6 Mile Reef in Stewart, and that fish ate a ballyhoo and jig combination that the angler was just drifting along, jigging, and got that nice mutton. The other thing we got going, despite all the weeds, the summer dolphin bite's been really slow, really the whole summer. Mostly small fish that they're running into as well. But this fresh push of blue water is starting to ramp up the bite a little bit. The best stuff has been out deep, 250 to 1,000 feet of water or more, on the larger, more defined weed lines or around diving frigate birds. This is a good time to run and gun with live baits or to troll ballyhoo or feather and strip combinations. You're just wanting to cover water, so you need to be on the move a lot. If the weeds are broken up, you may have to just drift and put out a kite. Live threadfins, pilchards, or sardines are going to be your best bait for that. Average dolphin is still around 10 pounds, but there are a few larger fish being caught. I got a photo of a larger fish that Captain Jonathan Cranker of Colossal Catch Charters got this big fish drifted in 85 feet of water southeast of the St. Lucie Inlet, and that fish ate a live threadfin.
A little bit larger than 10 pounds.
That's one of the largest
Yes,
dolphins
it
I've
is.
seen
It's good to
this
see a
year.
few of those
This year.
big fish finally.
Yeah, that's
Finally.
a
okay,
great.
this is
that's
good
great
news.
to see.
Good news.
Well, Mike,
Happening.
tell us
great.
what's going on in the freshwater.
Well, the summer heat's starting to impact the bass fishing all around the state. And on Headwaters Lake and Fellsmere, they're seeing more of a dawn topwater bite. It's more of that summer pattern. Then as soon as the sun gets up, the fish are pushing into the deeper holes and up under the floating vegetation. The big key right now is the wind. If the wind dies, so does the bite. If the wind's blowing, the bite's been really good. Start your day throwing prop baits, buzz baits, small poppers. Flukes have been good, like a red shad or watermelon, red glitter-colored 4-inch bass assassin fork-tail shad will work really well in that condition. Then as the day goes on, you can fish the holes in the hydrilla. with a black and blue glitter or red bug colored RSB worm. You want to rig that Carolina style. And you could also work the edges of those floating mats with a very small prop bait. Live shiners have been catching a lot of big fish and big numbers. That's been the key if you're looking for big numbers. The key in the middle of the day right now is to fish painfully slow, almost like you would during a cold front. It's a 20 to 30 fish morning on headwaters, 40 to 60 fish if you're using shiners, average bass 2 to 4 pounds, but they're catching them up to 9 pounds right now. So, still a lot of nice bass on headwaters. You just got to kind of slow it down and be there early.
Great report, Mike. Thanks. I appreciate that, and we will take your TH Marine hotspots for the East region from here. Captain Mike says inshore permit on the St. Lucie Power Plant outflow, drift a live crab on 30-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 5/8-ounce jig head. Or offshore, mixed bag of kingfish, dolphin, and wahoo starting at about 180 and going out to about 250 feet of water off Sloan's Curve. Drift or slow troll live Spanish sardines or goggle eyes for those fish.
Jim, I really hope that photo is the start of bigger dolphin to come.
We've had a lot of little ones,
Yeah.
but they've got to grow. So,
yeah, it's true. It's true.
That was a great fish. I think that's the biggest one we've seen this year.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in the Yanmar ASV Keys region, Captain Sarah Stanzik has some important wade fishing tips you're going to want to hear so you don't get stuck, literally. Right, Sarah?
Yes, that can be a problem. Wade fishing is one of my personal favorites, but I will say it is somewhat tricky here in the upper Keys where I live because of that reason. Most of the flats are kind of muddy and soft, so honestly it's kind of hard to walk around and wade here in Alamorada where I live. But down towards the lower Keys, there's much more firm, like limestone bottom, and there's some really spectacular wade fishing that can be down towards Key West more. So it's just the different areas of the Keys. But wherever you wade, you'll want to look for a couple things. One thing is calm winds and moving water on the flats and the sandbars. So you want the visibility of not having like a lot of wind, so you can look for the fish. And then again, some kind of moving tide is better than just still water, of course, we all know that. Plan to go earlier in the day or later in the day and look for those tides moving and the calm waters where the fish can be seen. You want to look for wakes, pushing water, tailing fish. I'm going to talk a little bit about fly fishing here just because this is definitely a fly fishing type of scenario. So an 8-weight fly rod with a small lead eye shrimp fly or a medium light spinning outfit spooled with a 10-pound braid connected to a 20-pound fluoroliter and a 3/16-ounce bonefish jig, natural in color. That would be a good go-to for fooling bonefish, permit, and redfish down south more on those flats. Now here's a photo of my friend and angler Joe wading on a flat. It was a nice day. Got his America pants on.
Hi, Joe.
It looks like
Like your
he's
pants.
preparing for 4th of July.
Love it.
What else have we got inshore, Sarah?
So we just talked about, the wading, and I'm just going to go right into bonefish because that is one of those species that you catch while wading, obviously. We've been catching lots of bonefish here in Alamorada this season has been really good. Lots of fish around. They're not big, but they're, nice, healthy, small-sized fish. They're a blast to catch. They'll rip the line off your reel and scream drag, and they'll hopefully be that next generation of those big 10-pounders we're going to see hopefully in the next 6 or 7 years. Live shrimp are a good bait. You can also use small live crab, but they're really fun and challenging to throw those fly rods, the flies at. So don't be too afraid to pick up your fly rod and give it a try.
And what have you got offshore, Sarah?
Moving offshore, you caught one of these, a mutton snapper, right?
Yeah, we lucked out and found
Saw
one
you the other
day.
So he knows how it's done. We typically target mutton snappers here in the deeper waters off the reefs, either on the wrecks or other structures. So you want to head out to 100 to 200 feet deep on average. Use a live pilchard, a ballyhoo, or like a pinfish on a 5/0 circle hook. Long leaders, 20 to 30 foot leaders, and a 1-pound weight. So the long leader is kind of a good trick. They're fun to catch. They pull really hard. They're great to eat. Very white, flaky meat. Some of the best eating snappers and fish. I love mutton snappers. So look at these two big lunker-sized muttons. That's caught aboard the Tan Man charter boat.
Here we go.
Yum.
There's a lot of them. Put it this way. I found one the other day.
Oh,
so
don't
they're
say
thick. So they're thick.
It's been a good year for mutton. Everyone's been pounding
It's
the
time
mutton.
for
so hopefully
everybody
there's
to
some left
go.
for
If I
next
can
season,
catch them, you can
It's been a
catch
good
them
mutton
too.
season. So.
Well, tell
Moving
us about the
deeper
swordfish.
offshore, we have swordfish right now. It's summertime. We've got a lot of nice weather, patterns like calm winds. So a lot of people are making willing to make that trek, to go 40 miles offshore to the Swordfish grounds, you just have to have nice weather days. Not everybody has a 50-foot boat, Most of us have 20 to 40-foot boats or whatever, somewhere in between. So you're going, minimum 25 miles, but up to 40 or 50 miles offshore. So you're out there. 15 to 1,800 feet deep is where you kind of want to target them on the edge of the continental shelf, like the drop-off, they call it. We use a whole squid or a mahi, a bonito belly strip for bait. And sword fishing is tricky. Like, you're dropping that one bait all the way down 1,800 feet deep, and you're drifting with the Gulf Stream with that bait on the bottom, trying not to get tangled up or spin your boat around. And the idea is to keep the bait close to the bottom, but not get stuck in the bottom, and you make those nice long drifts and wait for a bite. So it's tricky. Give it a shot. Try it. Talk to people. Learn from watching YouTube videos, and it's fun. Once you catch on to it, it's a lot of fun, but it takes effort. So don't give up if you don't catch one the first time. Check out this crazy picture. This is like an underwater, upside down, super cool pro photographer. Kevin Dodge took this. It's really artsy.
That's awesome. I feel like my head's I'm just upside down going turning my body around trying to figure it out.
Top, but backwards. Or I don't know. It's strange
cool
looking,
photo.
but I threw it in there. It's just different. It's not a dead fish on a boat. It's just a fish underwater.
There you go.
That's a great photo, Sarah. Absolutely
cool.
Great photo. Well, let's see what you've got for your hot spots for the Keys region. Shallow sports hot spots. Captain Sarah says bonefish bite is good early and late when it's not blazing hot on the flats. Look for fish waking or pushing and cast ahead of them, and they may swim into your bait and pick it up and do exactly what she said. Scream line off.
Ooh.
Offshore, yellowtail snapper bite is good on the reefs. Use lots of live chum and wait it out. If the bite isn't good at first, you might want to just wait until the tide changes, and then you'll start catching some fish. And we experienced that actually today.
And if you can do it.
And if I can do it, anybody can do it, right?
That's ridiculous. All right, well, we've got a bunch of Keys tournaments coming up, so let's take a look. Where are they? There they are. First, we have the 37th Annual Father's Day Dolphin Derby in Marathon with cash and prizes awarded to the top 4 places based on largest dolphin by weight. Then is the VFW Fishing Tournament in Key West, where anglers choose to fish either June 17th or June 18th, but not both, with cash prizes for the heaviest catch of 5 species: mahi, wahoo, tuna, snapper, or grouper. Next is the Florida Keys PBA Dolphin Tournament, where anglers fish in Key West on June 24th and 25th for cash prizes that increase based on the number of boats entered, and to support the Autism Society and the Keys and the Love Fund. And finally, the Isla Mirada Fishing Club Captain's Cup Dolphin Tournament, where the winner-take-all grand prize of up to $25,000 is awarded to the team that posts the highest aggregate weight of 3 mahi-mahi. For more information on Keys tournaments, head to flakeys.com. But you know what, Jim, the Sea Sucker Panhandle region is giving us our weekend rating report next. But first, Dave is sharing his finds with us, our Taco Marine new products at the CCA Workbench.
Yes, I am.
Look at that pretty thing.
Yeah, this is a really cool wading vest from Texas, and we're going to talk about it. Texas Best Wading Vest.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey. It
We'll
rhymes.
be back. It does.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, we're back with Dave at the CCA Workbench for the Taco Marine Trolling the Edge new product segment.
Yes, sir.
And we've got some good stuff here, Dave.
Yeah, we do. We're going to start off with an oldie but a goodie, but these are the new Eco Lure spoons. It's a drone spoon. They've been made forever, but they're doing some little different things to them now. They come in a 3.5 inch and in a 5.5 inch. They're a stainless steel blade spoon. The whole thing is stainless steel, really. The hook, the split rings, all the everything on there is stainless steel. And you can get them with flash colors like they have here, pink, chartreuse, or you can just get them plain, and they catch everything. They catch kings, blues, striped bass, a cobia will eat it. Anything that'll eat a small, flashy fish, even a wahoo will eat a drone spoon.
And the littler size ones are great for Spanish, bluefish.
Yes.
And we've even caught
bait.
We've even caught tarpon on them before.
Yeah, I catch bait with them all the time as well. ShopMirrorLure.com to get your drones, your new drone spoons.
New drone spoons.
Next, we got fish bites. This is the butt kicker paddle tail, the 4-inch. It's perfect bait for wading. You know, if you put a jig head and one of these things and go wading, you're going to catch some fish. They're scented lures, obviously. They feature the Fish Bites proprietary formula that makes fish eat, and all natural ingredients. They're biodegradable. They won't lay around in the water forever. They're super tough though, and you can usually catch more than one fish on them. You know.
Yeah, they feel very sturdy.
Right, they are. They are. Sometimes it's even hard to put them on the hook because they're really strong.
Gotcha.
So go to fishbites.com to get you some of those paddle tails, butt kickers.
Butt kickers.
Butt kickers. Next, we've got the Penn Battle 3 combo. This is a really new combo here. It's Penn's most popular combo. This is the 4000 reel. Stronger, smoother, and more durable. You know, it's all metal reel with CNC gear technology. HT100 carbon fiber, just like the Penn Internationals. 5+1 sealed bearings in there. Just really nice. And the rod, it's a 7-foot medium rod, graphite composite blank. What I like about it is it's got the Penn Dura guides, which are stainless steel guides, solid stainless steel guides.
Yeah.
There's no little
Nothing
inserts
to
go
knock
popping out, which
or
is
break
usually
or chip.
Yeah, it's usually what happens.
And these new Battle 3s are incredible.
Right.
I've been using them for about a year now, and no failures to date.
And
So-
they make them in a lot of different sizes.
Yeah.
You know, from little inshore rods all the way up to big offshore rods.
And where do we
as well.
find those?
Penfishing.com. Now this last thing is very appropriate, seeing as how we had the wading show today. This is the Texas Best Wading Vest. This was made by a guy named David Drinkard in Texas. You know, they do a lot of wading in Texas, probably a lot even more than we do here in Florida. They do a lot of redfish and trout wading there. They have miles and miles of it. And this guy, he's been doing it for 40 years, and he decided to make the best one that he could think of. And this one rides way up high on your back. So you can go in, you can wade really deep. That's why he made it to go on your, you know, to sit way up high on your back.
I see that, yeah.
It really, a lot of different adjustments. These two rod holders here are kind of small, but they're that way so that when you stick your rod in there, it doesn't move around. You know, once it gets down in there.
It locks down in there.
Yeah, it locks down in there. So when you're walking around, it's not bothering you. You know, moving around and bugging you, which they will, or even falling out when you bend over.
And on the front, you can attach a lot of different things.
They got like 50 different attachment points.
Yeah.
This nice bag in the back. You can do, your tackle box. You can just reach back there and pull it out.
Grab it, and away you go.
Just
Where do you find that?
drinkardandcompany.com. drinkardandco.com. You can find
Great new
Texas
products.
Best
You guys
Wading
go
Vest.
get you some.
All
Brie,
you need are like 50,000 carabiners.
Exactly. You got everything.
Clip on everything.
Clip
exactly.
on everything. All right, if you plan on getting in the water this weekend in the Sea Sucker Panhandle region, you should listen in with Pat Deneen to see what we'll need and where we'll need to go. Talk to us, Pat.
Hey, Brie, I tell you what, we have no shortage of wading opportunities in the Panhandle. And the cool thing is wading allows you to be very stealthy and really fish an area thoroughly. I mean, you really, saturate that area because you're slow. You're fishing it slow. Targeted species in the Panhandle are primarily redfish and trout. And when I think of wade fishing in the Panhandle, St. Joe Bay is the first area that comes to mind. And right now, plenty of fat redfish and trout are being caught. And the recent full moon tides were perfect for wading areas that are hard to reach by boats. For wading, look for that good firm bottom, so you're not sinking, calf deep in the mud. Wear wading shoes and be sure to shelter your feet so you don't step on a ray. Soft plastics on a light jig head have been the ticket in St. Joe Bay with some bonus flounder being caught as well. And then also the Gulf Islands National Seashore, the Live Oaks National Seashore, and the Sound. Very popular for wading, lots of grass flats, lots of good firm bottom. And the beauty of it is you don't need a rod and reel to access these areas. All you need is water access. Pretty cool stuff. Staying inshore, tarpon are being caught along the beaches throughout the entire region. They're being caught from the boats and from the Gulf front piers. The fish are migrating east to west on that second sandbar, that outer sandbar. I've been using a 7/0 trocar hook tied to a 60-pound fluorocarbon leader. Live cigar minnows, herrings, and pilchards are the baits of choice, but also white or pearl swim baits or plastics on a slow, steady retrieve can be really effective. Anchor up and wait for the fish, or use your trolling motor to intercept the fish, but don't chase the fish. Chasing the fish with the outboard, it's only going to push those fish deeper. You're going to see the fish. You are not going to get a bite. The water is beautiful right now. There's a photo of a tarpon we caught this past week off the beaches of Walton County. And Jim, look at that water. You don't have that water at Cape Canaveral.
No, we do not.
Fish,
I'd like to have some of that.
Oh, swimming pool.
No, we have beach renourishment water, which does not look like that, I can tell you.
No, it's really nice right now.
Wow.
Moving offshore, lots of red snapper being caught in federal waters by federally permitted vessels. On June 16th, red snappers open up for recreational anglers in both state and federal waters. So until then, if you want to go catch and keep some snappers, you have to be on a permitted charter boat. But if you just want to catch them, the red snapper population is really strong right now. They're being caught on natural and artificial structure 9+ miles offshore if you want to keep them on a charter boat. But you can just catch them, release them wherever you catch them. Cigar minnows and herrings are baits of choice. There's plenty of small cigar minnows around right now, perfect for these red snapper baits. Fish them on a slip sinker rig, 4 or 5/0 circle hook, and just drop it down, hit the bottom, come up a few cranks. There's a photo of a nice, healthy red snapper caught this past week fishing with my brother Don Deneen on the Sure Lure out of Destin. They've been really doing very well. And then finally offshore, plenty of wahoo are still being caught in the Panhandle. Primarily by trolling a couple lures on the way out and between spots while you're out there. But if you want to just target them, pull a spread of lures about past the 100 fathom curve. I know I was talking to a charter boat mate this morning or two ago, and he's adamant about keeping a lure in the water. Every time the boat moves between spots or even rounds up to get back on the spot, he drops a lure back. Lip diving lures are great for the slower speeds. Trim lures and jet heads are better for the faster speeds. But there's definitely plenty of wahoos out there right now. Black, red, and orange, pink, and purple. All good color combinations. The wahoos are average about 30 pounds, but some north of 50 have been caught. And there's a photo of a bonus wahoo caught this past week on a charter boat out of Destin, doing exactly that, pulling lures between bottom spots.
Can't catch them if you don't have a hook in the water. That's the truth. Well, thanks, Pat.
That is correct, Jim.
I'll take your blue water outrigger hotspots for the Panhandle region from here. Captain Pat says you need to get out there and fish the dock lights at night for redfish and trout. You use small live baits, light leaders, and free line your baits in the shadow lines of the lights. And then offshore, pull a mixed spread of natural baits and lures for the pelagics. You want to be out around that 100 fathom curve. He says that's where it's best. Look for current pushes, weed lines, and floating debris to be additional features outside of that 100 fathom curve.
All right, well, let's show our support for Florida's fisheries with a conserved Florida fishery license plate. For just $25, proceeds for this redfish tag support protecting and enhancing Florida's saltwater marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Get this beautiful edition at your local DMV or visit redfishtag.com. It is pretty. It does dress up our CCA workbench a bunch.
It looks good on the back of my truck, too.
Oh, yes, it does. All right, our front runner boats Northeast and Dynapack Southeast regions are headed our way next, so stay with us. But before we go, you see that QR code on your screen? Well, make sure you scan it right now to get exclusive access to our live audience sign up, like our kids show coming up on June 19th, and all of our social media channels. Plus, we'll be uploading new videos on our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. So scan away and subscribe. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're waiting in the front runner boats Northeast region, you're in for a treat. Tommy Derringer, tell us what the waiting life is like up there.
Hey, we love the waiting life, Brie. That's right. I feel like I'm wading through life as it is. It's great.
Wading through life.
But here in
per
the
usual.
Yeah. Hey, we in the Front Runners Northeast region, we love our wading. It's great. And most of our bottom, it's soft and muddy, and that can make wading a little difficult. But if you stay closer to the inlets where the bottom's a little more of a hard packed sand, the wade fishing can be great. Probably one of the best tips that I can give anglers here in the region is they need to make sure to wear some proper foot protection, because you know what, our oyster shells, they're sharp as a razor blade, and they're on just about every type of bottom that we have throughout the entire region. But one of the coolest ways to wade fish here is during our flood tides. And you know what, guys, we've had some major flood tides here in the last couple of weeks due to these unseasonable really strong northeast winds we've been having. Now, when that tide gets above about 5.5 feet, the water gets into that grassy marsh areas, that wouldn't usually have water over it, and the redfish, they can't get in there on a regular high tide because they just don't have water over them. And the fish go bonkers over the crabs that they can get to on those flooded areas. And you're gonna see them tailing, backing, they're gonna be slurping those crabs in the grass. Most of those flood tides happen in the late summer and fall, but we do have some sneaky floods throughout the year depending on the weather. Just keep an eye on the tide chart and the wind. One of my absolute favorite ways to chase redfish is doing that. And it's a sight fishing game, and it's our best sight fishing we have here. Aside from the flood tide stuff, another way to wade fish in the region is in the surf or along the beaches and at the inlets. There's all kinds of different stuff you can catch in those inlets right now. It's trout, ladyfish, whiting, redfish, flounder, all kinds of other species are hanging in the surf in those inlets all summer long. Now, staying inshore, I mentioned trout. The trout fishing has stayed consistent this week, and there's still some big fish showing up, kind of some early spring fish still around. With the early morning last outgoing tide we have this weekend, it's a great time to fish the edges of the ICW for some trout. A topwater is a great search bait. It's going to account for the majority of the bigger trout that we catch this time of year. And I'll be targeting those bigger oyster shell bars and the smaller runouts that come off of some of the bigger flats right on the ICW. Guys, we had a situation where we were catching a few trout on topwater, and then we'd start getting some short strikes. That's when you might want to go and switch it up to a saltwater assassin paddle tail or a live shrimp under a cork. The Mama's 14K color, it's great for this time of year when the water starts to get murkier. There's a lot of flash from that paddle tail. It's definitely going to get a trout's attention. Now, there's also been a good trout bite happening at the inlets with a mix of both speckled trout and silver trout on the change of the tide. Just use a live shrimp or a mud minnow or a small mullet on a jig head. And I've got a picture here. My brother, Captain Todd Derringer, sent me this pic of Logan Carr with a big old monster trout they caught on that Mama's 14K saltwater assassin paddle tail. That is a killer rig. Try it out. Now, moving offshore, guys, first I'm going to talk about the mutton snapper. The mutton bite has been picking up over the last couple of weeks throughout the region. I spoke to Captain Billy Hunsicker from Endless Summer Charters. He tells me they've been on a great mutton bite in that 140 to 180 foot depths. He's fishing over reefs and ledges. Now, Billy said while live baits are going to work well, really most of his big fish here lately have been coming off dead sardines and other cut baits. Now, the muttons, on average, they've been big, 10 to 15 pounds, but there's been some big mangrove snappers in those same depths. So expect to see a lot of big snappers right now. And I've got another photo here. Jennifer Capot from Tiki Island Adventures sent me this picture of a recent trip that she did with Real Mermaid and the Finstalkers crew. They were aboard the Endless Summer with Captain Billy. They caught a bunch of nice fish, including those muttons. That's JD Capot, Joe Tuttle, and Benjamin Hunsicker. How about those muttons there, guys? I love those fish. They're so pretty.
Beautiful. They're gorgeous. Beautiful. What a great family photo. I think they're family.
That's right. Now, also offshore, guys, the kingfish. Hey, it's kingfish season. There's a bunch of kingfish tournaments coming up over the next few months, and for good reason, because those kingfish, they're on the reefs and wrecks, all the way from Jim's region down there at Ponce all the way to Jacksonville. Now, there's also been some nice kingfish caught at the inlet rips and along the beach this week, especially in the north part of the region where the bait seems to be hanging out. Hopefully some of that bait will come a little south for everybody. Good luck to all the anglers in the old school kingfish shootout this weekend. It's a big one. And I've got one last picture. This is Captain Shane Stover from Inshore Adventures with one of their kingfish they caught last weekend during the Meat Mayhem tourney out of St. Augustine. That's a lot of meat right there. It's a lot of kingfish
That
meat.
is king meat.
That's the one you're
I
looking
love
for
it.
in any of those tournaments that are coming up, Tommy, that's for sure. Well, appreciate it, buddy.
That's
I'm going
right.
to take your strike zone hotspots for the Northeast region from here. Captain Tommy Derringer says, inshore, trout and redfish along the ICW shell bars, and you want to look from Palm Valley down to the St. Augustine area during the early morning last of the outgoing tide. And then offshore, a great mixed bag of snappers from 140 to 180 feet of water. And the kingfish are starting to show up along the beaches, especially in the north end of the region, or wherever you find good amount of bait.
The redfish are going bonkers and slurping crabs.
And slurping crabs.
I love his choice of wording. It's great. Keeps me, with it. All right, the Dynapack Southeast region has plenty of fish to get on this weekend, even if it's not necessarily a wade fishing situation. So let's hear what Captain Jimbo Thomas has to say.
You got it, Bree, and I think I'm going bonkers. And also hello to Jim
Slurping
and
crabs.
Dave.
Now there's a guy that can slurp some crabs right there.
he
Jimbo
can.
knows about a crab.
He can.
I do. But yeah, like you said, I haven't noticed a lot of people wade fishing here in the Southeast region. Part of the reason is that the water just gets pretty deep pretty fast. Now, most of the beaches throughout the region are fishing friendly, but you want to get out there early before that beach gets too crowded. Now, one of the areas in the Southeast region that is a common wade fishing area is Matheson Hammock, which has good fishing for bonefish, sea trout, and barracuda on both the north and south sides of the park. Another good spot is off Hobie Beach off the Rickenbacker Causeway, where there's occasionally bonefish and tarpon caught. And then you can go off Miami Beach and some of the other beaches throughout the whole region, but it's more surf fishing, not really wade fishing. But light to medium spin outfits and using both live and artificial baits is what is going to get you bites doing that wade fishing. Now, moving into some real fishing, with all the rain that we've had lately, the water levels in the Everglades, they've been rising, and that means they're spreading those largemouth bass out onto the flats and on top of all the sawgrass. And also, I assume the bugs are going to be pretty ferocious. But the peacock bass fishing has been on fire lately in the urban lakes and canals throughout the whole region. The peacocks, they've been averaging 2 to 3 pounds, with fish up to 8 pounds, not uncommon. Now, there's been big schools of 1 to 2 inch minnows that these peacocks have been feeding on. So you want to look for those schools of bait, use small live shiners or crankbaits that are in that 1 to 2 inch range to match the hatch. Now, they're biting best on a fast retrieve. Now, fly fishing firms also have been working great using small clouser minnows in red and white or green and white. And you want to look for clear water that has some current. And those peacocks, they are biting best in the middle of the day. So right when the sun's up, hopefully it's not lightning storm. Now, moving offshore, tuna bite continues along the edge of the Gulf Stream, anywhere from 120 to 250 feet of water. Look for areas with some blue water and north current. That's where you're going to find the best action. Now, you want to fish live baits under the kite or on the drift. That's the best way to really target these blackfins. And they've been anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds, so they've been nice size ones. And we've been using 30 to 40 pound fluoro leaders and 3/0 to 6/0 circle hooks. You want to kind of scale down in your tackle. And they've been biting throughout the day, but the best bite is going to be from around 4 p.m. in the afternoon until sunset. And if you're lucky enough to find some pilchers to live chum with, you hopefully can get them really fired up. Now, I got a photo here. This is Captain Craig Fountain with a big South Florida blackfin tuna that he caught last weekend, actually. That was about a 30-pounder. That was a nice one.
Those are some chunky ones. Well, tell us about the
I was
dolphins,
out there,
Jimbo.
and I didn't catch any.
Not you.
Yeah, I know, hard to believe.
Yeah.
But the dolphin fishing finally started to pick up in the last week. Hopefully it continues. The fish have been mostly schoolies in the 5-pound range, 4 to 5 pound range. And we've been finding them anywhere from 6 to 18 miles offshore. Now, there's been very little bird activity, but the fish have been hanging under big patches of sargassum and also on any floating debris. Now, in the mornings, we found that the fish, they've been staying kind of deep. So if you pull up on something and you don't see them right away, maybe try soaking some live baits or cut baits there, see if they pop up. If nothing shows up in a few minutes, move on to the next patch or floater. Hopefully you can find both until you do locate those fish. But then in the afternoons, those dolphins seem to be popping up to the surface, making them easy to sight fish. You can cast live or cut baits to them.
Well, that's a great report there, Jimbo. Thanks a lot. We're going to take the southeast region hot spots from here. Inshore, Captain Jimbo says hunt peacock bass in the lakes and canals south of Dade using a live or artificial baits. And then offshore, live chum and fish with pilchards or herrings late in the afternoon from 120 to 200 feet of water. And look for some sailfish, blackfins, tuna, and kingfish all mixed in that depth.
Well, our producer said that if captaining doesn't work out for Jimbo Thomas, he could be a comedian. What do you think?
He's got a second career.
He does. He does.
But
Ready
that
for
guy,
him.
you know, we were talking about slurping crabs. That guy can catch some crabs.
Yeah.
And he wades for them a lot.
He does.
So
he does. So no wade fishing in his region? All right.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I don't know. Anglers, get ready for the Key West Marlin Tournament, which is coming up July 19th through the 22nd. This fun-filled sport fishing event is limited to the first 75 boats and coincides with the 43rd annual Hemingway Days celebration in Key West. For more information and to get registered, go to keywestmarlin.com. I cannot believe we are already in June and we're already talking about July.
I know.
Time's just flying. All right, we won't keep you waiting any longer for your Casa Vieja Southwest region, so get your gear ready and we'll be right back with your captain on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. I won't be a comedian, on the other hand. I have the worst humor.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack. Your partner on the road. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Power pole anchors have many tools. They are not just for fishing. I love it when I pull up to the beach or the sandbar and see a nice flats boat, bay boat, even a pontoon boat pull up, deploy their shallow water anchor, and enjoy their day out here at the island. Here are a few tips to help you choose the right spot to deploy the anchors and enjoy your day at the beach. First thing I need to do is decide where is the best spot to anchor the boat. I like to always take into account which side of the island or sandbar has the most boat traffic, which side of the beach or sandbar has the wind or the waves rolling in. I'm basically trying to find that nice calm spot. Lastly, I need to park the boat so that if the tide comes in or out, I can adjust the boat throughout the day so that I don't get stuck. After I have chosen the perfect spot, I like to nudge the nose of the boat up to the sand and deploy my power pole shallow water anchors. I always take out the rope and chain and throw it off the front and secure the bow, just in case we walked away in a big wave or the tide were to come in. Throughout the day, I pay attention to the tide and readjust the boat based on the water level, but with the power poles, that is easy because all you have to do is hit the up and the down button, and that's your power pole tip.
And that's a good power pole tip right there.
It was.
All right, well, there's a lot that goes into planning the perfect wading trips with the right fish catching conditions in the Casa Vieja Southwest region. So let's listen carefully to Captain Ronnie Houston. Hi, Ronnie.
Well, like always, it's always a pleasure being here, you guys. You know, wading can be done throughout the whole year, throughout the whole region. But I do think there are certain conditions you really have to look for when it comes to the tides. So you're mid outgoing until it gets low, and then low to mid incoming. But also try to combine that with northeast to easterly winds on my part of the coast, especially around the area times of the full moon. But you also want to try to look at your tide chart and maybe line this up with your negative tides, which will give you more time to study the area that you are fishing compared to a normal tide in the ranges 0 and above. But you want to study the area. Things are going to change between your negative tides and a normal tide. Look for the areas of mid-coming that has wading birds consistently in the same place, maybe along with some crustaceans. That will be a good place to target. But also look for areas of bait fish consistently in the same area on a particular tide. Target potholes that still contain water and troughs, and then when the tide is at its lowest point, you can get out and concentrate on the edges, follow the water back in. But the whole time, if you do this repetitively and consistently on the tides you find these fish, there you go. You're going to find your sweet spot, and those fish will generally be in that area every time at that particular part of the tide. Now, still on the inshore side, the snook. You know, the bite is heating up still throughout the whole region. Your beaches along the whole coast at higher tides. But although the water is clean, those fish right now might be difficult to catch because the water is clean. So if that's the case, try to concentrate on maybe on passes where swift current meets eddies. Now, with the passing of this full moon, your bridge spans, your intercoastal docks and seawalls, target those at night. Right now, it seems the bite seems to slow down during the day, but also concentrate in areas of flats, independent islands, oyster bars, deadwood, and blowdowns with some type of tidal flow. That's going to be important with the flow of the tide. Reports to the north right now from Sanibel to Stump Pass are really heating up with the patterns I mentioned above. The baits of choice have been live pilchards, live pinfish, saltwater walk-the-dog lures, quarter-ounce to half-ounce gold spoons, and soft plastic paddle tails and artificial shrimp. There's a couple different types of fish being caught right now that you can see with the colors. One is with me in the backcountry, and one was another angler on the outside, so that bite is improving. The offshore side, the mangrove snappers. Fort Myers Beach is Stump Pass in depths of 75 to 95 feet of water, concentrating on wrecks and ledges, both day and night, especially, like I said, with the passing of this full moon. Box chum bought at your local tackle shop. Cut pilchards or cut herring can also be chummed up. Don't over-chum these fish. Drop back small cut baits, maybe some live pilchards and pinfish for a bigger mangrove. Flat line behind the boat, light leaders, 20 to 30-pound leaders, lightweight added or jig heads depending upon where the fish are on the water column. With the opening of red snappers last week, reports have been good all through the region. Several different types of reports, all with the same results, guys starting at about 150 feet and beyond. They're telling me no piece of structure is too small. They all have been looking for that raised bait off the bottom. You can anchor up or drift across these areas. No reason to stay in an area too long right now. Just keep moving to find them bigger fish. Good moving current triggers a good bite. Also, being on the bottom is going to be the most important. Once you find this fish, it's going to be quick. The bite's going to happen quick. Live baits are going to be live pinfish. Cut baits are also working well. And limits, once you find them, really come quick. And there's a couple examples of some fish caught down in the April's area with Capt Mike Avedon on opening season of red snapper. Weather's looking good for the weekend. Keep an eye out for the afternoon thunderstorms. Get out and catch you some fish.
Look at those pictures.
That is a hefty tote right there.
Mike Avedon strikes again.
Hey, Ronnie, real quick, you were talking about those negative lows, and a lot of people don't realize that sometimes the water goes lower than low. So it's like a negative low.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the way that you consistently find those birds in areas like that. Do you have any specific spots that you could talk about that, Ronnie?
I just basically wrote, look at the area, fan the area, new areas I'm fishing. I just fan out the area, look out on the horizon, try to figure it out. Take a little bit of time, and you'll get it figured out.
Well, it's one of those things where knowing the bottom structure makes you a better fisherman, because when you come back and you know what's under the water, you can still fish it effectively. So that's a great tip, Ronnie. Always try to scout a place on a negative tide if you can.
On a low.
You got it, Mike.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. And we're going to take your Serenity Bait hot spots for the Southwest region from here. And Captain Ronnie says, Redfish and Pine Island Marina, Redfish and Pine Island Marina to Regala Key, and include independent islands and high water using cut baits and live pinfish under the bushes. And then offshore, cobia and permit anywhere from Marco to Fort Myers on those wrecks, towers, and artificial reefs. And you want to use live baits and crabs.
That's also why I think it's so important when you go to a new area and you are maybe, pro angler in your area, and you go to a new area, it's important to reach out to a local captain who knows the area and the low tides and all of that, because they know exactly where to go.
The knowledge they have is invaluable.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, well, your waiting days ahead should be very productive and most importantly fun. So whether you're a waiting pro or newbie, your next adventure awaits. But before you set out, stay with us, because we're telling you what we're fishing for next week when we come back. Well, next week we're talking red snapper, which is, we've had a lot of those in the reports tonight. So I think it's perfect timing. And Dave, you're headed to Texas tomorrow. You're going to fish there for some bass. You've been in the Keys catching all sorts of species.
All the things I can't catch at home. Bonefish, yellowtails, mutton snap. Well, you can catch mutton and snap, but I don't target them at home.
Right. So, and if you can catch them, anybody can catch them in the Keys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Jim. As always, thank you for being here. You're a great co-host. You too, Dave. And we'll see you next week for Red Snapper.
Bye-bye.
Bye.